Okay. Okay. Let's see if this is working. Negative market segments. And then we have that. Okay. I have no idea if this is going to work or not. The internet here is absolutely terrible right now. So hopefully anyone watching, if you can hear me, let me know now. That would be great. Because the internet here in the sticks is terrible. I think this is the first live video I've done, so I have no idea what I am doing. Let's see if I can get myself on here actually, and let's see. Hopefully, if the screen doesn't die, we can maybe help ourselves out. We'll go into some charts in a bit anyway. But let's see how we're going. Can everyone hear me okay? I don't know how many people will get on this. It's the first time I've done it. And if the video is out of sync, let me know as well. I'll just turn that off if it's irritating everyone. Wow, guys. This has been a crazy day. Let me just write in here. If the video cam is out of sync, if it is, hey guys, welcome. So yeah, we'll go into some charts in a bit, but I think I wanted to talk a bit first of all about some things that are going on. So obviously it's really frustrating today. I don't think it's frustrating. I think it's actually quite interesting because it's another opportunity that has come our way. Guys, let me know in the comments if my video camera is out of sync with the sound or anything. I'm literally running on a hotspot right now, so who knows? Who knows what's going on? So guys, obviously the market has gone a bit crazy today. I just think there's so much going on. Oh, we're good. Awesome. Thank you, Roy. That's awesome. So, yeah. So I have like a crypto chat group, and we were talking about, probably 2 weeks ago. And I said to everyone, I think like Bitcoin's going to come down to maybe like $37,000, around that mark, because if you look at the charts, which we'll go into in a second anyway, but yeah, people were sort of thinking like, why are you thinking that? But it wasn't like me just guessing. It was just like going back in the history of the chart, which, like I said, we'll go into in a minute. But it's also like just the momentum. Like when we talk about like cycles, we talk about cycles. So arguably maybe like September, October time last year, maybe into November, we're seeing like the really good highs, right? And it's quite funny because a lot of people in my group chat, and I know even myself and loads of people out there, when you're in the high mode, you're always like, wow, this is amazing, it's going to keep going up and up, but you never know where the top is. And then obviously it started trickling down throughout December and everything. But when that sort of happens, you usually see like 3 months of a correctional period. But in amongst that, you're seeing other things around the world that are very much main problems that can arguably affect stock markets, not just stock markets, but like the crypto market as well. Not necessarily at the same time, but usually it's crypto actually afterwards. But there's some really interesting sort of articles here to pick out on this aspect. And a couple of things I'm going to point out. This leveraging thing, right? This leveraging of shorts and longs, like, it is so annoying, right? I can't believe. I mean, if you got like mega money, to these people that are rich and stuff, it probably means nothing. But like these whole shorts and longs that are going on, it just gets so annoying. Like, but that's the anticipation. That's what you get when you're in this market, right? And one piece of advice, actually, I haven't got my phone with me because it's sat by the window, trying to obtain the signal as best as it can for this stream. The Wi-Fi is terrible. So when you're using your exchanges, usually you have like the gainers, the top gainers and the top losers. And one thing I've started keeping more on top of is making sure I keep an eye on the losers, because you start to see, particularly like for example on Qcoin, you start to see like the asset word. So let's say like it's AVAX or SAND, whatever it is, and then it usually has like a L or an S next to it, and then obviously the multiplier or whatever to the move that it's doing. And certainly in the bear market, usually a lot of the shorts win. But what I've started noticing, particularly recently, is the longs coming in a lot more. And when that sort of happens, you've got to keep like your mind quite conservative when you're making decisions of whether you're entering or not. So if you do that, go and check out your exchanges and go and check out the top the top gainers and top losers. You'll find that in the losing aspect, you can start actually seeing what's going on with the market. And you see in the back of me, behind me in the browser, leveraged long positions. This is basically people utilizing their assets. They're basically betting, essentially gambling on the future, the short future or the long-term future of an asset that they want to obtain. And obviously if it comes in, absolutely, it's no different like when you're betting in general. It's obviously great if it works, and if it doesn't, you could be losing a lot of money. Welcome to everyone that's joined, by the way. Nice to see you all as well on the chat and everything. This is the first live stream I've ever done. I just thought, I was literally sitting there, I've had a very long week at work, and I thought, do you know what? I can't really do like loads of individual videos right now because there's so much going on, and it'll be a repetitive story. I might as well jump on and we'll have a chat. So keep any questions. We'll go into charts in a minute, so if you want anything looked at in particular, just let me know. But this thing in the back here about the leveraging long positions, it's just getting frustrating now because it's happening so many times. But as an investor, you've got to take a seat back, understand what's going on, and just be cautious of when you're putting a strategy together investing. So on this big correctional period that we've had over the last few months, a learning that I've had over the years is to not just jump in with a load of money because you've just been paid or something and go, oh yeah, I'm going to do that, or there's a bit of a dip. Try and average it out. And it's not like financial advice, it's more of like an opinion and from experience, if you like. And it's been working the last week or so for me personally in making sure that I don't just chuck all my money in at one go. I put in a small element of it, keep some aside, ready for the next drop if there isn't. If there isn't another drop, then there's nothing really you can argue or complain about. You've been doing it as it comes down. So it is one of those things. The leveraging positions is really frustrating. And I was looking at a few other articles here. Of course, so much going on in the world now. Like the energy crisis is an absolute nightmare. I don't know where you guys are in the world, but for me here in the UK, there's so much media attention around the energy sector at the moment, like fuel prices going up, well, petrol in general going up. You've got the aspect of energy. We do have the Power Ledger AMA. I'm literally finishing the editing tonight, so hopefully I can get that live. But it's absolutely fascinating to talk to Dr. Jenny at Power Ledger, one of the key founders and the chairpersons at that company, POWR, that is on the exchange. And she was going into massive depth of the energy sector and the crisis that we have around the world, and how blockchain is going to fix so many things. The removal of high energy bills, and the whole conversation around supply mechanism and this, that, and the other. Because at the end of the day, like, when you're paying your energy bill, right, you obviously already had the company that you're paying has done all the legwork, if you like, of carbon credits or like carbon trading, and you're essentially just seeing the end of that. But you have no control over that. You have no control over the price that the energy company gives to you. You just accept it. And there's a lot of senior people in this country, and I'm sure others, they just accept them. They just accept the bills, and they go, "Oh, this must be the way it is." And some people clever like me, I'm quite fraudulent with money and stuff. So like, I'll always pest them like, "This is too expensive. You need to bring it down." This, that, and the other. But in general, the energy crisis is an absolute mess at the moment around the world, and I think that's absolutely got a thing to play. Because if you think about it, yes, we've got the leveraging, yes, we've got market situations at the moment, but from a general psychological perspective, think how many people have perhaps put a load of money into crypto. They maybe see it coming down, and they're like, "Oh, do you know what? These bills are going up. I could do with the money coming out." So there's loads of little different things, going on to impact these kind of moves. And now you've got things like this. This is ridiculous. So the UK and many other countries now just honestly dispatching weapons and technology and stuff to Kiev or wherever. There's all these conflicts going on. So like, for God's sakes, guys, just can you not all just get on and sort yourselves out? But this money makes the world go around, as they say, right? And this whole supply chain mechanism, it's all interlaced. I've said this in many videos. The whole thing going on at the moment, the narratives all around the world, are conclusive to opening up the answer of better trade systems, supply chain mechanisms, and everyone's just fighting for land, for the aspect of money. Basically, that's what it's all about. It's either oil, or it's land, or it's batteries, the supply chain channels, and this, that, and the other. And you see here, like, economy struggling with supply chain problems, and it's like, well, I'm not bloody surprised, to be honest. Like, it just keeps going on and on and on, and so that's going to have an aspect. We then got the US interest rates. Like, this is a crazy topic. I think this is like the third or fourth time now, maybe in the last year or two. I mean, if anyone's from the US, you can probably correct me more so, but it's like the second or third time that the US has put a hike up on interest rates. And I'm here in the UK, and I'm sure they used a different terminology for it around the world, but we had the thing like furlough. And when that came out, I was like, it's going to save a lot of people like panicking and anxiety and stuff. I was like, how are we going to pay for this? We're talking about like billions upon billions of dollars. They'll find a way to claw this back. And of course, a lot of that can come back. They won't hide it as tax. They won't say like, yeah, we're going to increase the taxes. That'll probably come at some point, I'm sure. The best and easiest way for them is for interest rates. And what does that affect? Of course, it affects the entire house market, both commercially and domestically. So, you've got this aspect in there as well. We're talking here in the UK about increase of NIC, which is like national insurance, like taxes and things. So in general, guys, everyone's like relaxing maybe last year, thinking, oh, we're at the pandemic. Yeah, we've had furlough. We've had, money paid for us and helped us out. But then now comes the time where we come out of it all and, oh, who's going to pay for this? So I'll tell you who's going to pay for it, the people. So you've got all these things happening. People are under more and more pressure to try and find better paid jobs. And the topic we always talk about, like IOTA and with our other AI and IoT projects, the infrastructure of blockchain machines taking over jobs. And if you're not awake to that, I was in the garage yesterday for on my lunch break actually, and for getting a service on my car, and I was literally talking to this guy came in. He's like a window cleaner or something. He's absolutely awesome, like really chatty. I love people like that, like all walks of life, and just talking to me. And he was like, so I had my laptop out, and he's like, so what do you do, mate? And I was like, oh, I'm involved in like crypto, not just for the channel, but like for my actual work and stuff, in gaming and things. He was like, "Oh right, what's that kind of thing?" I was like talking about the metaverse and stuff, and then it wasn't until I started like mentioning a few things, and he was really on par with like what's going on in the world in terms of like all these price rises and tax and this, that, and the other. And it was just literally, I was trying to explain to him like how the mechanism of the energy sector will be working on blockchain, finance will be working, supply chain, anything you can possibly think of. But yeah, going back to this topic of like, IOTA fixing, or DAG systems in general, blockchain in general, just fixing so many problems around the world. And when you do your research on things like Agenda 30 and the World Economic Forum, what's coming on in the next 8 years, a little bit of a background story, guys. Like, I've had so many questions throughout life, right? And certainly in the last 5-10 years, I've always been like, right, I know about the Agenda 21, I know about Agenda 30, I know about the World Economic Forum, I know like a lot of people like conspiracy theories, blah blah, but it's all there. You can go and read it and watch it or whatever. And then all of a sudden I knew about blockchain, and it was like, these are the answers that are coming to kind of help us hopefully move through this. But before we do that, we've got to go through all this nonsense. And there's just absolute mess at the moment. US stock falls as earnings slump and risk of pivot intensifies ahead of rate hikes. You can look at this two ways. Obviously, like I said, one is that we have to pay for this kind of thing that we've been given for the last few years somehow. And then the second part of that is the amount of money that these guys have institutional level, not just in crypto, but stock markets in general. Look at Elon Musk. All he has to do is put a picture up and the whole market goes mental about 2 or 3 different assets, right? And it's exactly the same with any other stock markets assets, and it's exactly the same as well as any of the fundamental projects that you find in crypto. These narratives will swing as the market does as well. You see the narratives come out, the market reacts. You'll see it exactly the same as well with the likes of it going up. You start then seeing the narratives of XYZ companies, governments, whatever, countries are buying Bitcoin, this, that, and the other. And then all of a sudden it starts rising again. It's literally just the timing is perfect. Of course, some of it is relative to real world situations, but a lot of it's arguably like stuck in there for us to be like, force us to sell or force us to be panicking and worrying. And I think for sure the next thing in reality, especially with these interest rates, is going to be the house market crash. There's no doubt about it. I've always had this thought, like maybe April, May time this year, or maybe towards the end of the year, we'll probably have some mega house market crash, because there's no way in hell that these prices of houses and everything else can continue to rise. This is exactly the same as any stock market or crypto market. It's like that has to come down as well. But I think this could be the narrative and this could be the moves that really kind of pull it down. But let's go into some charts, guys, because then I can open it up to the chat. So if anyone wants any assets looked at, provided they're on TradingView, I can for sure go through them. But I think one of the very key areas to start with, of course, is Bitcoin. I don't actually hold Bitcoin myself. I've been very open about that since I started the channel, for no particular reason really. I think I had a good chance way back to get some at like maybe $3,000 or something back in March 2020, I think it was. And I didn't. I instead went for Ethereum at the time, and then I bought Ethereum at like £75, which is probably like, I don't know, $80-90, and then sold it all up at around $2,000, waited for a drop, and then I bought loads of my favorite ones that I have now, like VeChain, IOTA, IOTX, all of this cool stuff. So I don't have Bitcoin, but I know for sure, obviously, it affects the whole entire market, absolutely. And it's always interesting to see its moves anyway. Now, this is really interesting. So like I said, for those that are just joining the stream and everything now, I said in our group chat a few weeks ago, I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we go back down to maybe $37,000-ish to retest some earlier levels. Now, we did a video a while back, maybe a couple of weeks ago, suggesting about this area here around 40 and this being a very significant break point. And now when we hit that back down here on the 7th and 8th of January, think everyone saw this rise up and thought, oh, we're out of it now. And I was like, no, I don't think so, because these top areas, this is very consistent around a lot of asset charts right now. This whole area here between sort of, it's really quite a big month period, but around this sort of area of October, November, pretty much all the charts is the really high points, right? And majority of them actually got new all-time highs, as we saw even with Bitcoin as well. What I've always said along the way all the time is this aspect here. When we see a correction, we usually see between I say 30% and 70%, only because like usually around 30-40% in the short term, and then usually the longer term is a lot more than that. Now there's a partial alarming thing here, is that in that theory, particularly for Bitcoin, we're only around 50%, which I think is quite respectable considering the amount of money that is in Bitcoin as a value. But arguably, 70% that would just be horrific, and I think that's more of like a winter market thing. But if you're looking at all the other crypto assets, it is usually around that 60-70. So from an altcoin perspective, we're very much at that area right now. Okay. My friend Toby, we will definitely go into BPro at some point after Bitcoin for sure. So yeah, right now, guys, what's really interesting is we're now touching up on these points, certainly around back here in August, and the fluctuating patterns that we saw throughout June and July. And interestingly, at the beginning of last year, we are virtually coming to the area now of where we were last year, which is crazy. And interestingly as well, this similar sort of move happened in January, and then obviously we had the big massive rises up. I'm not saying that's going to happen this time around. Hopefully it will, but we'll have to see. But my point about this predominantly isn't just going backwards in just looking at a chart for the sake of it. My point being about this is, with any of the charts, I always talk about this, like the actual touch points, the actual mechanism of support and resistance. Okay, because we could argue, like, I mean, this is only like a month that I'm looking at here right now, that I'm scanning around here. But what I'm talking about here is, if you drew a line, let's use this fib retracement line, which is pretty mental, that is pretty much landed on that anyway. So it's roughly around 36,477. Okay, so that's as low as it got. I think it's retraced slightly since then, but we'll go with that. So what you've got here, you can see around 4th and 5th of August, you had a touchdown period onto that area as well. Underneath, before that, you've got the support mechanism down here around 30,000, and it was the similar situation in January. So where we are right now is very much on this line here, around 36,700. There is an argument to say that we hadn't really had that many touch points of data around this area to say that this is where we should be. So in amongst this absolute madness of rises and the drop and everything, and this is another critical point. This is very cliche to say, but when you draw like a trend line and you think, like, if Bitcoin was to go in a completely steady, like, straight line diagonally, it would look something like that, right? Okay. So what's happened is we've gradually started moving up with Bitcoin. Narratives come out. Oh, so-and-so is buying Bitcoin. This is buying Bitcoin. The country's buying Bitcoin. This, that, and the other. And then obviously more and more people around the world who haven't heard of crypto before start going, oh, hang on a minute. So if it was like still 3,000, people aren't really that interested. But when you start saying to people, have you heard the news? Like Bitcoin's now like 30,000, and people jump in, and there's loads of other narratives around the world. We start going on this big rise. But this isn't over purchasing, right? And we see that clearly on the RSIs down here. I'll open those up a bit. In fact, let's just do it now so you can see what I'm talking about. Looks like a heart monitor. Absolute madness. But you can see the big power surges, particularly in RSI on the higher levels of like a 3-month period, are relatively high. Okay, so what that means is we're overstepping where we should be with Bitcoin, and eventually too much consistent power comes in, and you get the reduction, you get the correction over a period of time, 2-3 months usually. So it was this round, maybe April highs with real low points back in arguably June to July time. So again, 2 to 3 months period of correction, which is exactly what we are doing now. So everyone's in panic station mode right now, okay? And we're just going to talk about that in a second, where we are today. But I want to, like I said, bring this story to the reflection point of what's happening now. So these touch points, in my opinion, there's not enough to say that we should arguably be saying 36,000 is out the door. Forget about it. We're rising and rising. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. Because you could argue, yes, of course, you've got loads of macro events here, but look at this line across here. There's hardly any touches at all. You're probably talking maybe 20, 10, 15, 20 max of touch points around through that area, okay? And that's where we're led to right now. So that's why I said on my group chat around 37,000. Obviously, it's dropped a bit lower than that. As mentioned earlier, with the things like leveraging, it's understandable that's going to happen. So that's where I thought we would get to. But then you've got to ask yourselves, okay, we're bringing this down. Now, obviously, the day hasn't ended, okay, and this looks horrible. It's not too dissimilar, really, to this day here on the 5th of January, in the sense that of the big red candle that is created, and also this one here, which again was a horrific leveraging failure day. That's why we dropped an absolute fortune. I think it went 53,000 to the lows of 42. Could you imagine that? I mean, that's crazy. Of course, bought itself back up, but we're still in the middle at that point of a correctional period. If I'm honest, like, I would be saying, hopefully, we're seeing the end of this, and we might start seeing a curved reaction around this 36 mark. Some people on my chat were saying people were long leveraging, that they knew personally that this might come back down to around the 32 region. And I thought, well, okay, that could be a possibility, because again, same theory aspect, that there's not many touch points down this area. And it's really all going to be down to these next few days or this next week or so of this critical area that we're at right now, in my opinion. So that's arguably, the situation right now. We've had loads of narratives coming out, loads of negativity the last few weeks. It's almost, if you think about it, this is what I've learned about the world. I don't fear anything anymore. I just see opportunity. And I also realize the power of media on everyone. Especially the last couple of years, I've switched news off years ago. And now I find it amazing how many people react to stuff that's on the news, even if it's not true. Like, I remember when the pandemic started and I was walking my dogs, and someone came over towards me, obviously not close to me because he was worried about this, that, and the other. And he was like, do you not watch the news? And I was like, sorry? He was like, yes, did you not hear that if your dogs mingle with other dogs, i.e. my dog, that they can catch COVID? I was like, what? He was like, yes, don't you watch things, you ignorant so-and-so? And I was like, I'm not ever coming to this place again. Clearly a load of weirdos walk around this absolute nut job of a woods. But anyway, like, that was narrative aspect, that someone's read The Sun or something, which is a crap newspaper anyway, and probably thought, oh, goodness me, I can't mingle my dogs around anymore because they're going to catch a disease that's only for humans. But anyway, that was the mentality that I thought 90% of the world are just going to follow whatever. So when you start seeing things like interest rates, energy crisis, this, that, and the other, the UK, I did a video 2-3 months ago, UK fuel crisis. There wasn't a fuel crisis. Boris Johnson, honestly, absolute lunatic, thought it would be a great idea to mention something on the news about a potential fuel crisis. There wasn't one. There was nothing. There was nothing at all. What happens? Everyone goes and fills up. What then happens? The fuel price goes up. And all of a sudden, we've gone from our 120 mark, £1.20 per litre, to 150. What can no one else see this? Can no one else see like what goes on in this world other than me? Like, it's just an absolute madhouse. And it's exactly the same with interest rates. This will affect house prices. It will affect the markets because of uncertainty, because people are pulling their money out because they're like, oh, maybe I'll need this money. And what happens is we have the big drops, we have further drops, and eventually it gets to a low enough point where all the rich, I'm going to say the word, the rich people go, yeah, this will do. And then all of a sudden they start buying it up, and hey presto, we start a nice reflective period. All the good stuff comes back. All the good stuff. Oh, actually, yeah, we fixed the fuel crisis. We fixed this. We fixed that. Everyone's buying Bitcoin again. so-and-so country around the world's decided that they love Bitcoin again. All the narratives about banning Bitcoin, banning mining disappear for another 3 to 6 months, and then they start coming back again and we drop down again. It's the same boring pattern. I've known this, like, I'm early 30s. I've known enough now in the last 10 years since leaving uni that this world just runs on media, and it runs on narrative, it runs on fear, but more importantly, it runs on money. And if institutions and big leveled companies and this, that, and the other are not happy that they are not making money, they'll go and create something to make money. I'm not saying what it is, but certainly the last couple of years, I can assure you, multitude of trillions of dollars have been made for the sake of our well-being and other things. So back to the conversation of Bitcoin. This is very much where we are right now in the market. Okay, so all I can say is, from personal advice, like I said, keep checking your exchanges. Okay, so keep checking the gains and the losers. I'm referring mainly to KuCoin. I'm sure it's the same on other exchanges. You'll start seeing more and more leverage opportunities failing or winning. And what you see this morning, when I woke up this morning, I always check the markets and I'm like, what's losing? And pretty much the whole entire thing was about long leverages. And I thought, this is going to be a red day. And hey presto, during the day, absolutely tanks. And then the more it tanks, the more people sell in fear. And I'm just like sitting there going, cool, I'm just going to buy more. That's not an arrogant thing. It's me just learning, especially last few weeks. I haven't been chucking all the money in. I've just been doing it dollar cost averaging down and seeing how it goes. But it's crazy. Price of tinfoil hats shot up. Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, of course, it's like conspiracy theories. Yeah. People talk about conspiracy. I think it's quite funny because actually blockchain and everything has the answers. I found, like, with investing, I found more answers than I have anywhere else because I now realize that the world just runs on nonsense, absolute nonsense. And I'm not scared of anything more. I'm not fearful of anything anymore. It's just like, yeah, there's a game behind it for sure. I do recommend everyone go and read the Agenda 30 document on the UN website. And I do recommend checking out World Economic Forum on a weekly basis, monthly basis. Always some interesting narratives on there about sustainability, diversification, narratives around supply chain, this, that, and the other. And hey presto, all the blockchain conversations are coming in more and more as well. So guys, let's have a look at some other charts. So the chat, fantastic, guys. Nice to have you here on the first ever live stream. Like I said, I was going to do individual videos like I do. It's been a crazy week at work. And I thought, do you know what? There's so much going on. I was going to do a live stream. Tried to do it with Wi-Fi. Fell apart. So I've now got my phone hotspot on the windowsill because I live in an absolute peasant rural area that doesn't have fibre broadband. 4 years the posters have been on the cabinets down the road saying coming soon, and I'm still sat here on 10 megabytes. Crazy. So let's just have a look at a few things back here. So someone wanted to ask about BPRO. We'll go into that in a second. Someone talked about IOTA or IOTX. My answer to that, my friend, is I have both. Why do I have both? Because they're fairly slightly different. They still focus both on like AI and IoT, of course, but for me personally, IOTA for sure, because I love the staking aspect at the moment for the assembly and the shimmer tokens. I think they're going to be absolutely fantastic protocols and additions to the IOTA system. But IOTA in general, if you haven't watched any of our videos, it's absolutely phenomenal. The Tangle system, not just Tangle and IOTA, I'm talking about DAG in general, direct to acyclic graph. So this is like the next evolution of blockchain. This is what's going to switch the world on, guys. This is going to be what, like, I was trying to explain it to the window cleaner yesterday in layman's terms, as it were, and I was just like, how can I explain this simply? And I just simply said, like, when we have chips inside us, which are coming soon, it will tell you that you're about to have a heart attack in like 2 weeks. Stay where you are. And then the ambulance arrives by itself. It's already paid for. Everything's done. All your medication. And then all of a sudden drones are dropping off nutritional food that you need for your body to repair itself. Not what you think you should eat and drink, but what the algorithm of everything says that you should do. But then there's like transportation. If you have a meeting coming up, it's all booked automatically. AI kicks in. It knows your behavioral patterns from how you've used your phone over the years, how you've been browsing. It already knows what hotel you want. It already knows what kind of transportation you want, what kind of seat you want on the plane. So it books it all together. So that is basically my kind of brief introduction, or how I would explain like a tangled blockchain system. It's an automation of everything. Machine to machine learning, human to machine is happening already at the moment. So yeah, I think it's absolutely fantastic. Hey, PB, you mentioned Mobi, absolutely spot on. Same with blocks move, BLOX, all of these integrated pieces, like everyone focuses. I've got a fairly big portfolio in terms of how many assets there are and stuff, and like for me right now, I'm just really focused on AI, IoT, gaming, because these are humongous markets. The fact of like IoT being integrated and talked about a lot with the European Commission at the moment. JW80 is mentioning MTV. Multivac is a phenomenal system, of course, helping with scalability and everything, and they argue that they're a competitor to IoT, but the fact of the matter is, all of these assets are arguably almost as good as each other in their own way, because they do different jobs, they do different things. Everyone always talks about competitiveness with assets, and I don't get that. It's like a tribal thing. Like some people are too scared to say what they own because they might get trash talked down or whatever. But I'm like, guys, there's plenty of space here. We're so early, and they're all going to have their use case. I mean, let's have a look at NTV quickly now, actually, while you guys are talking about that. In my long list of favorites here. So MTV, it's actually a really good price point at the moment. What's really interesting about the strength of MTV at the moment, because we cover this project quite a lot. If you remember the 31st of December, the rumors kicked in just before that of the CEO, Frank, I think, leaving. And then obviously that created a storm of a correctional period. And I was really looking at some areas, and we put some buy orders in at these lower regions. I think we managed to hit one around that 6.5 cent. Sorry, not 6.5. It's 0.0065, and that came in. We had a bit of a rise up. I didn't think that was going to be over in the correction because we haven't really completed the full sort of 3-month cycle, if you like. And here we are coming back down. But what I quite liked about the strength, and albeit it's not the end of the day yet. The Asian market will probably open in a few hours time, so we might see a bit more movement at that point as well. And usually what happens when the day closes in the market and another one opens, I mean, we're on UTC GMT here, so that's why it's not kind of closed yet. But what you see is, because it's closing on a lower point, when it opens, it tends to people who jump on and they psychologically don't look at what the chart's done. They just see, oh, it's opened on red, it's going to keep coming down, and it drags it down a bit more. But you can see here on the macro level, MTV, I mean, we drew this in the last video. So this fib retracement, let me see if I can pull it across without moving it too much. I'll try my best. It was around about there. It's very interesting. So you can clearly see traders are using these kind of tools for sure. But more importantly, I wanted to mention what we did in the last MTV video is why we were talking about these lower points. It was because of the data points here of going through resistance levels and support mechanisms as well. So there's only small critical areas that we could really identify as data points, and arguably from some of these areas we're in really big price discovery modes, which have been overpurchased massively. MTV had a massive storm beginning towards the end of last year, if you remember. And it was really exciting. Everyone was jumping into MTV, and then of course, things happen, and then obviously we talk about the CEO dropping down, and there's general correctional period after the all-time highs. So right now with MTV, it's very similar to like Bitcoin and others. We're really focusing on some support areas here, and we're arguably testing this area back here in June, and some what I call like magnetism points around this April-May period here as well. So the argument to have on this is that if you look back at this point after the CEO announcement change. And then obviously the marketing team did the AMA. They were talking about a new roadmap coming, and then obviously confidence started kicking back in and we had the rise up. So we tested this area before quite recently, as well as the areas back here. But what was interesting is it pulled it up really significantly quickly. And of course, I think that's too fast. And we did talk about that in the last MTV video about the certainly the RSI movements of going from this low point here, even on the 14-day, 26, all the way up to a high of nearly 60. I think that's too fast, too quick. So we're having an organic correction on MTV, in my opinion. But what I like about it so far, and that's why I'm saying so far because we haven't closed today and into tomorrow, is it hasn't come yet down to these lower levels. So it's showing some good strength there, that the confidence is back in MTV. Just because all the other markets are doing a certain pattern doesn't mean they all have to do that. And you've got to reflect on what MTV is right now in terms of where it is in the life cycle, but more importantly, as a project. Clearly, people were believing in the project. We had loads of FOMO in at some points, of course, as well. We got the big staking mechanism in. So, you get that tail off as well. You have the influx of people trying to get their MTV in staking, and then they've done it, and then nothing happens. It looks boring, and then people start selling it off, not understanding what's going on. So that's why it's really important with research, guys, is looking into the project consistently, what you're investing in. Because sometimes the price movements aren't always about narratives around the world. They're actually to do with things that the project is doing or not doing. So in this case, we're talking about the staking aspect as well as the traditional market intake and influx of money flowing in. But like, for example, this area we talked about, I thought MTV was recovering at this area. But then it literally, all it took was the previous CEO on the 31st of all days to say, yeah, I'm leaving, guys, sorry. And then all of a sudden everyone went, oh dear, I don't know, like the look of this. And then literally marketing kicked in, and there we are back again. So it's going to be a really interesting few days for the whole market in general, but MTV, in my opinion, is looking quite strong at the moment. I have been buying MTV across the last 2 days. I was certainly buying it in this drop between the beginning of January and mid-January. In the anticipation that we might come down a bit lower. It went back up. I didn't buy any more. I've seen this drop down, and I was buying some more earlier today. So the RSIs at the moment on that one, 14 days looking really healthy in terms of like a buying position. You're kind of like minimizing that risk of it coming down a lot more. I'm not saying it won't come down more, but it's, if you're doing the averaging aspect that we talked about earlier and what I do personally, you can't necessarily go too wrong. But the 28-day being on just under 40 as well is looking at that very nice juicy point now of like, okay, we've had the little rise up here. It's now correcting itself again. You can see that on the histogram here on the moves as well. And I think obviously it's going to tail off naturally, but I just think it's really interesting. It hasn't like fully dropped down irrespective of today's moves. And I think, to be honest, I can't really see much of the change. I'm assuming this on here is 24 hours, so it's not really massively significant today on majority of assets in a 24-hour period. Some of them look quite normal, and of course if we close today above this fib retracement line or on it, we might pull this back a bit more as well, and it won't look as bad anyway. But yeah, in terms of the aspect of the data we see on MTV, I'd be mega surprised if we drop like massively further down. I wouldn't. I would buy a lot more at 5 and 0.005. That's for sure. But yeah, we're gonna have to see how that plays out in the next few days. But let us know if you are holding MTV in your portfolio for sure. But yeah, it's absolute. It's for me, it's just a bargain. Anything under 1 cent for MTV for its longevity. I'm not looking really to trade MTV at all. Unless I see significant prices. I'm talking about like way beyond 10 cents in a potential bull run, if that ever actually happens this year or whatever. But yeah, for me, I'm long-term holding. I'm trying to accumulate as much as possible. When I thought I had loads, when I had like 20,000 of them, I was like, yeah, I've got loads of these already. And then someone goes, oh yeah, I've just staked like 2 million of them. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I need to step back a bit and get some more. But yeah, do let us know if you're holding that. Yeah, of course, IOTA, very promising. Absolutely believe that. As we said, PB, yeah, Moby, a top project. Anyone interested in those kind of things, do check out Blocks as well, BLOX. Quant, guys, let's look at Quant, because this one, absolute beauty today. I said on my chat group, I'm going to be interested in Quant if it gets to 115, and it absolutely came in. But look at this. This is no word of a lie, guys. So in the last Quant video, we did this buy box area, and I said I'll put a position here. I think we did the top area here, the box, a while back. Why did we put it in there? Because of this point here in December, but more importantly here. Why do I think that, and why did I say that? For those that haven't watched the Quant video, my point about that was when you got to these areas, even down here, okay, let's say 27th of July, around $92, I was like, we are on price discovery mode of Quant. It's gone on an absolute rally. Big, massive institutional money came into this. It's a big project talked about in the financial world, especially with things relating to CBDCs and the new infrastructures of finance around the world. Particularly in Europe for Quant. And I'm pretty sure they are heavily involved in the UK's Digital Pound Foundation as well. So this was interesting because it obviously clearly shows some resistance here. It was too much power in there and too much influx that they didn't want it to come down lower. It's driven back up again. So this whole area here is so massive. This is a huge gap, guys. This is going from $68 to, I think, the crazy highs of $429 in a space, July to September. 2.5 months. Absolutely mental. So what's happened is this influx come in. Everyone's got excited, as we always do, naturally. And look at that. What happens when this happens? You get a mirror effect. Exactly that happened. We then have a tail off because everyone's like, oh, there's no news anymore. There's no news on Quant. Oh, it's kind of boring. Sell off, sell off, sell off. Not immediately, by the way. It wasn't like it's completely gone off the face of the earth. It was a very gradual process. Hey presto, what we said earlier in this stream, September to where we are now, very much around 3 months cycle. So we had this box in because of this area here, because of that price discovery mentality, that this whole entire area here is arguably crazy land. There's no support really. We've just gone up here for the sake of it, and now we need to come back and find out where Quant is actually supposed to be. Because if you, again, going back to that generic cliche of a trend line, you would argue that this particular area of Quant, if this was going in like an organic move, it would be like maybe around here somewhere, roughly at this kind of point in time. So not too far off where it's dropped down to now, but I would argue like where it was maybe 15th of January is probably pretty spot on, near enough the areas that we should be with Quant at this period of time and what it's capable of doing, what it's doing in the world, blah, blah, blah. So we put this lower area in here of around, I think, just over the $100 mark. And I thought, if it comes down to there, I'm snapping everyone's hand off to get that. Now, this is crazy. So we've hit this top area around here. I put in our group chat, I think, this very early this morning, and I said, I'm telling you now, guys, if this gets to 115, I am buying one. I haven't got any Quant. I've got a big portfolio. I don't want to go mad on this stuff. And I've already spent those in the market the last couple of weeks, so I can't really go mad. And I thought, if it goes to 115, I'll put money where my mouth is. And sure enough, it came in on my buy order. I was like, this is mental. And what happened after that, it came down to 103. And that can't be right. There's no way. I should just do things when I say I talk about them. This is mental. So the buy box area, the lower area, and this is no word of lie, you can go and check the last Quant video that I did when I put this box in at this area. I've not moved it. And it literally went slightly under it, I think, to what did it come down to? 103.26. And I put this box at, I think, 104? 104. I didn't even listen to my own advice, but do you know what? I'm not going to complain. I got one at 115. If it came down lower, it came down lower, so be it. But it's like, it came down to this area. I didn't put this box in for a laugh and guesswork. It was, again, back to my point about particular areas of time in the past where this area of big discovery was of great interest to me. I thought, well, if it's going to come down to these areas, of course it might dip down to these, but sometimes just to capture something slightly above it. So not quite on the dot of, say, 99, but just over 100. And I never put something at like 101 or 100. I would always do it slightly above. And I like that 105 area. That's why I put it in there. But can you believe it? It's come down to 103.26. Absolutely mental. So, yeah. I'm pretty pleased with that. And you always got to celebrate the wins. It doesn't always come right, but that's the whole point of like averaging your way up and averaging your way down. So I'm pretty pleased to have got the 115 area for sure. But maybe next time I'll have a bit more belief in my buy orders and actually go with what I say for everyone else. But it just goes to show, like, that is it. And I'd be really interested actually to see if this pullback comes back to around this sort of 115 mark or not. But it's no doubt in my mind that people are going to be very interested in obtaining Quant, especially as it went up to these high points. I mean, if we get a bull run this year, hopefully, let's hope it happens. I don't want to see a winter market or anything like that. But if that does come, and we're talking about getting stuff here, this 100, obviously I would have loved to have got it at like 50, 60. But I missed all of this Quant. I didn't get any because it was going way too high. I just wait for it to come down. It got to that 100 mark, fantastic. But if we do go on a run and this penetrates that marker there, my goodness, what returns people will have. And fair play to those that have been earmarking Quant for some time. I don't think it's going to go to like $1,000 or anything like that too soon. But hey, who knows? It went from, as we said, $60 to $450 in the space of a month and a half. So who knows what's going to happen. So that is very much Quant, guys. I can't say much more other than the fact that we've hit the areas we thought we would come down to. I'm going to be honest, guys. I'm not just saying it because it happened today, but I wasn't expecting it to happen that quick. I generally thought we were going in a pattern. It's the similar process of this trend line downwards as well. I thought we were going to get to around that period, around this kind of area, maybe in a week's time. And it's just happened earlier because of leveraging and stuff. So there's no magic here. If anyone out there in YouTube says like they can predict charts and they can predict price points, they're talking absolute garbage. All you can do is monitor the analysis that you got in front of you, data points from the past, and obviously the market fluctuation of what's happening with narratives around the world. And you can make some elements of conclusions as to some smaller markers, but there's no way you can guess stuff like that. So really interesting. Yeah, PB, in long term, the risk is so small on Quant. I totally agree with that. I'm just really now intrigued to see if we'll dip down below 100. But, you know, like I said, it has pulled back. Let's just have a quick look. Obviously, the week's going to look terrible. But that's horrible to see, isn't it? But this, interestingly, this 1 month, I think, has reduced quite a bit over time. And that 3 months is going to be 62. What have we said? Most assets and most asset classes over a 3 month period are looking between 60 and 70%. So in my opinion, this is all like an organic correctional period anyway. It's just been enhanced. It's been sped up by absolute nonsense bettors out there using leverages. Which affects everyone. So really interesting. Absolutely, we'll look at eGold in a second for sure. We'll probably look at Veracity quickly now because that is, of course, another one of our favorites here on the channel. Nice of you to all join us, by the way. This, like I said, this is the first live stream. I wasn't going to do one at all ever until maybe 10,000 subscribers. I thought, you know what, there's so much to go through. And I've literally, I'm not even joking, I've probably slept 3 hours this week. Right, I've probably slept 3 hours because the crypto world is just chaos all the time, especially with gaming. Veracity, one of our favorite projects here. Let us know in the comments below if you are a Veracity holder. Big up to you, and again, thanks for joining us here on this stream. Guys, Veracity. Look, it's quite similar actually to MTV, isn't it? Actually, that's because it is MTV. I'm looking at you, idiot. Honestly, I was like, that's interesting. What an absolute plum. Veracity, 2.1 cents. I'll tell you what, actually, I'll get away with that. It does look quite similar. It's actually worse than MTV. But never mind. Two completely different projects. Irrelevant. So, what have we got here? We had this buy area down here again, taking our point from this drop that we had here, but also the touch points back here. Again, the same kind of principle, right? In my opinion, you can look at that chart and say that it's gone up and down, but actually I would suggest more so this whole aspect, especially from this point here, kind of big price discovery modes. But again, we drew this orange line in a while back, and I'm literally only doing this for the sake of conversation here. I'm not suggesting this is completely accurate, but my point being is that projects in general, as a longevity, if you were to draw a straight line for them, you'd see a rough idea of where their trajectory would be in the future, kind of thing, as a real price. What happens in those middle grounds, the things you see in between, obviously various narratives around the world, various things that happen with the project, influx of money because the excitement, the FOMOing, this, that, and other, but always, usually, it comes back down to try and put itself back to where it should actually be. Then the correctional period is kind of complete, and you get that justification of maybe a week or two of fluctuation around a certain area, particularly on a fib retracement level usually. And then you literally have that point of the switch back up. So Veracity had come back down again. I think let's just check their 3-month performance as well. 68, very much around 70%, isn't it? So actually, I'm just going to check that as well. So we had the high of 8.7 cents. As of today, right now, I think we came down to about 76. We've pulled it back to around 74. So it's very much bang on where we're supposed to be. I mean, it would be pretty horrendous if we dropped more than 70% on assets over a 3-month period, to be honest. That's got to stop at some point, right? It's like when you're going up, it's got to stop. Can't just have this horrific downward trend all the time. But back to the point, we are at a critical stage with Veracity over the last, arguably the last couple of weeks, to be honest, testing this region that we saw in September. And it's very apparent. We drew this orange line in for a purpose a few videos back because of this aspect of touch points and resistance. We had here resistance at this level because it pulled it back up. It's exactly the same point here in March, and it's exactly the same here and here. We had the drop down and it wanted to pull it back up, but it wasn't quite ready. And we go back to those kind of areas that we're anticipating in the long run. Then we have the tally up, we have the nice new all-time highs. And then what I've been doing personally on the way down is I don't always put like big numbers in at the top areas as it's coming down. I put small amounts in, and then if it goes back up, fantastic, because I bought a little dip. I've still bought, in my opinion, a great price of Veracity in the long run. And then if it comes down further, I've got anticipated potential opportunities as well. So I've been buying on the way down. It's kind of weird to think about it in that way, because I've been buying some at like 6.5 cents, 5.5 cents, 4.5, blah, 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 all the way down to here. I was buying loads of it around 2.7 because I always think that's a really nice touch point of Veracity, especially in history. That's why we drew this kind of orange line here as a real big target point for us individually here at Wales of Wall Street. But then I always keep some back just in case for those rounded numbers. Oh, look at that. We're opening with a green. Who knows what will happen? This whole conversation we're having now might just disappear completely next week. We might be in a complete absolute zone upwards. Who knows? But this point of Veracity right now is really juicy. I absolutely love Veracity. I think it's a phenomenal project. I don't listen to any nonsense about scam coins and it's rubbish, it's trash, it's this, that, and the other. Like, if you've done your research and you understand the advertising game in the world, you understand like how much money is invested in advertising, and then you're talking about proof of view, you're talking about NFTs, transactions being confirmed, utilizing things like Veracity's technology and stuff. You start to see the future. Like with Veracity, I'm building it up personally to put it into staking through a winter market or a proper bear market, kind of like what we're in now, but I don't have enough to kind of warrant doing it. From what I gathered, I think the percentage is going from 25% APY to possibly 18, which is higher than I thought it would. So in March, I think that changes. So that's my game for Veracity, but I'm very long term, just because of the way esports is going, the way advertising is going, for sure. And this whole view to earn mechanism is absolutely fantastic. It's going to be more and more an aspect of these kind of projects, positivity. Gib guy, what a day to list on Hoivy. Just crazy, giving up, worrying, no point. Well, yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, everyone's got a duty with their own money. Like, you got to feel comfortable with what you're doing and only invest what you can afford to lose, as they say. Absolutely spot on with that kind of a thought process, really, because for me, like, the money I've put into this is gone in my mind. What will be, but I'm not just throwing money at anything and everything. It's more like, what's this project going to do? What do I think about this project? And how does it relate to things that I know? Or I always say, like, invest in what you know, right? So for me, it's a really top project. It's a fantastic price point right now. I thought at our 2.7 that we were buying it at was phenomenal, but we've just had this pull down because of all the activities, like we said, going on with the long leverages, the short failures as well. There's no about what happens is, right, in this lower period, when it gets to the drop points, people put a load of short leverages in. It gets to a certain point and it just fails, or they either win it and then they take the money out and then it drops down, or it just fails completely. I'm not saying people do longs or shorts on Veracity in particular, but it for sure affects the market, no matter what assets, particularly in Bitcoin, as we know. So for me right now, just dropping under this fib level of 2.5 cents is of great interest, and that's why I literally purchased about half hour before I started this stream a load more Veracity, because I just think at 2 cents, that's absolutely mad. If it comes back down lower than that, that's going to be horrendous to see, but I will for sure be buying that more. And I will make the argument as well that I had in our crypto chat earlier. All these people, including myself at some points, to be fair, in any of the asset markets, when it got to these top points, I think every man and person around the world was saying, oh, I wish I got more when it was this price, i.e. the lower price. And I literally pulled that point out earlier because he was like, do you think we're doing this? Do you think we're doing that? I'm worried like it's going to bear market. And it's like, well, I don't really know. I don't have the answers to that. I'm not a magician. But I said to him, but let me ask you a question. 3 months ago, when we were at the all-time highs, how many of you, and I literally went through the history and found everyone's messages at that time in this context, how many of you said that you wish you bought them when they were at these like lower prices here, 2 cents, 1.5 cents? Because I said, right now, the prices are where you were complaining they weren't anymore. So what are you going to do about it? And then everyone's like, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, actually, yeah, it makes sense. So now, when I was like looking at like 4.7 cents, I think it was way back in this area here in October, I was like, oh man, I wish I got more now. And then it went on its tally, it came back down. I think I sold some Veracity near the top and bought it back in at these levels, like I mentioned here in this buy area 5. I didn't know how much lower it was going to come. You never know. But we come back down to these areas and I'm sort of sat there going, of course, no one can predict the future, right? But if it comes down further, it's another opportunity. That's the only way I can look at it. But if it doesn't go down further and it starts trading back up, not immediately, but I'm talking about like over the next 2-3 months, I know for a fact if it gets back to these top points, even if it's like 6.5 cents, whether it gets back to the all times of 8.7 or even 10 cents, I know for a fact when it gets to that point, I will look back and I'll be going, I wish I got more at 2 cents. Honestly, it happens to me every time. I've learned way too much about that. And it's not just Veracity, it's every single asset that I own. I'm like, wish I did more of that. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going, yeah, we're here right now. But I'm trying to limit the risk. As I said, I'm not putting it all in. Even now, I bought more earlier of Veracity and I said, I'm not going to do it yet. Look at this MACD down here. Let me just pull that up quick before we go on to another one. We had a switch over here on the 20th of January on the MACD. This means that we've gone into a bit of a bear mode. And we see that on the histogram as well, some selling aspect. What's going to be interesting is if it repeats this, because I think Veracity is a top project. I think a lot more beliefs in it. They've just released the roadmaps. There's loads of excitement and stuff like that going on. It'd be really interesting if that switches back over in a short period of time. We had a similar move here, 5th of January, switch back over on the 11th. So what's that? 6 days? Could have something similar there. Might be even be less. And that would be phenomenal because then we can maybe, just maybe conclude, and not just with Veracity, but many other projects, that this 3-month cycle is what it is. It's finally done its thing, and we might start turning this around. Let us know what you think in the comments below. But yeah, get some more, mate. I don't think it will drop very much further. I do actually agree. And like I said, if you're doing it correctly with the averaging process in your mind, like not just going, oh, I've just been paid, or oh my goodness, it's really low, I'm going to chuck it all in. This is not financial advice. This is just learnings of mine already in this small couple of years that I've been doing this, is be patient and think, I'm going to put some in now. If it comes down low, fantastic, I'll get some more. If it starts rising, so be it. That's actually a good thing, because then you can start taking profits from the ones you've just been purchasing. Or indeed you're on a winning streak on that aspect of the profits, right? So you can't really, I wouldn't say you can't lose, but like, what I'm saying is like you can certainly reduce the risk and that kind of thing. So yeah, for me, Veracity, I'd be partially annoyed if it comes down a lot lower, because I want to start seeing the turning point. But I'm not angry, because literally 3 months ago I was complaining that it was up here, when I could have got more and more of it down at this area. So it's catch-22 in this game for sure. So yeah, thank you for picking out that one. We'll go into XTC in a second. Welcome Firebird, one of our favorite followers here on Wells. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. Like, it's the first one I've done live. For those that have just joined the stream, very much couldn't be bothered tonight to do like 100 individual videos. We're going to do, if the internet stays like this on the phone, we'll probably do more of these at least once a week, maybe, for sure. So let's have a quick look actually at ADA, Cardano, because someone's just pulled up Cardano. You bought ADA at 3 cents. That is massive. Congratulations, my friend, because I think I was buying Cardano around 12 cents. And that's again another all-time high, a long-term hold for me. I actually picked that one up when I used to watch, well, I still do, the guys at Cheeky Crypto. Really cool guys there, and they were one of the first few to really pick that out. And I was really fascinated by their analysis of like the information of where Cardano was going, Charles Hoskins, like his interaction with that, and they were talking about AGIX, I think it was as well, Singularity Net, and like how that will work, and more importantly for Cardano, smart contracts. And I got a few pals high up in their companies, and they were telling me like they're actually started integrating Cardano, and I was like, that's really interesting, because these companies are like huge, like they're multi-millionaires. I don't know why they don't give me some of their money, but these guys, like from the smart contract aspect, he was basically telling me like the amount of money, and he said there's like a pro and a con to it. It's like the con is it's arguably replacing jobs, which we know anyway. Like, we talked about earlier, machine learning and stuff like that. It's just the way the world's going. You just got to get over it. Invest in it. You can't beat them, join them. So smart contracts, he was talking about like, how much it's taking these, will take a lot of his workforce out. It will save him or the company money, and that's what the business was about, making profit, of course, like everyone. So that's a bit sad thing, but the good thing is the efficiency, the aspect of what can be done economically, as a business moving forward, with the use of smart contracts, like the speed, the efficiency, the approval, the verification, the transactions, all of this stuff. So Cardano's obviously a load of things. There's loads of things going on this week, obviously, with the platform releases and stuff. Hasn't really affected Cardano in a positive way, but it certainly has for the projects that have landed on the Cardano system. But yeah, who was that said Cardano 3 cents? Gib guy, awesome work there, mate. 3 cents. Like I said, I was getting most of mine at 10, 12 cents, so obviously like still in profit. That's why I'm not really too fussed. And it's again another one where I was like, at these high levels here, $2, I still think it's massively undervalued. I'm just going to drink water before I die. There we go. So yeah, literally, we've come up to these top points. What was the actual high? It was like $3.10. Absolute madness. And I was like loving it. I've got all my Cardano in the Euro wallet. Like I said, I'm a long-term holder. I love that the staking is on every 5 days. I get the rewards. And yeah, I top up Cardano once a month, depending on the price. But right now, I thought it was very interesting because it's not the first time Cardano's come back down to this dollar level. If you remember these earlier periods, we rose up to this sort of $2. It came back to $1. I was definitely buying some there. And we drew that orange line. It must have been ages ago. But again, it goes back to that point of like finding the actual correct price of Cardano where we're supposed to be. And it'd be really interesting actually to see the 3 months. Let's do a drum roll. I think it will be near enough 70. It's not. It's 50. That was terrible. Let's just see where we've got to from this top point here to this low point. Just to confirm. It's saying like more than that. It's saying 65. I don't know where they got 47 from because this, unless that's earlier. Oh, okay. It's the beginning of September. That makes kind of sense. Okay, so the argument that we've been having basically is from these top points, these all-time highs that we saw around September, October time, to the current or relatively recent times of the lows, 65. So it's very much that 60, 70% conversation that we're talking about. So that's where we are. We're hit back again at this fib retracement level. And at the moment, as of today, and look at that again. We've got a little green coming. I think that'd be great. Clearly, some observational resistance, a level of support here around this 115, 116 mark. So we're currently floating around 112. He's trying to pull it back up, but very nicely fitting in with what we've seen here in this period between February last year and July last year as well. So very interesting magnetic points there. Look at that. Right on that green line. If you just go across, it's complete support at that level all the way through. Absolutely crazy. Which from that point of July, we haven't seen it up until, again, these points here in December. So really, really interesting to see if this pulls down like it did here and also like it did on these occasions as well. It's almost did a similar position to what we're seeing here. So arguably, we know Cardano is very institutional. We know that a lot of projects and companies are using Cardano's system, right? And they will do moving forwards. So I can't really see the amount of money that's being put into Cardano, albeit it's got a low price. It's not like a lot of projects out there that use like automatic, automatic market makers to inflate prices and stuff. I think Cardano shifts away from that. It's more of a early adopted price point still. If you're getting them at 3 cents and 10 cents like a few of us were, fantastic. But even at these prices, I think in the long run are so low. So it's going to be a really, really categorical, interesting point here as to whether we pull this back up. I wouldn't be too surprised that in this next day or two that we see this transferring itself back up to maybe like $1.2 or $1.20. But for me personally, it's pretty much where it's sat right now. It's literally touching the data points that we saw. Literally, so it's almost like the same repetitive pattern from last year. And if it is, that'll be fantastic because we might see some really good moves. If the bull run comes, I think I said with Cardano a while back, I'd be really surprised if it didn't get to at least like the $4 or $5 mark. So we've had good steady approach to that. But I think this is probably one of the best things you could see is this whole nice healthy position of support. You don't want to like see a gigantic parabolic run and then a parabolic drop and parabolic. You don't want to see that volatility. You want to see something that's gradually making its move. But it really isn't until you pull the charts out that you actually see where a project has come from and where it is right now. You think like this is depressing that it's at $1. Well, look where it was. Look at January. This is mental. Let's just say you bought it like literally a year ago. What was it? 22nd of January. 22nd of January last year, buying Cardano. I think it's around 37, 40 cents. So it's pretty still a big move, and you're getting lower highs each time. So I can't really complain about that, and I think it's absolutely brilliant to see that where it is. Like I said, it is exciting. It's exciting to see it at that price point right now. Similar to all the other ones we've been talking about, I'm sort of like sitting there going, should I add some more Cardano while it's here? Obviously reducing the risk. In a long-term pattern, the next point down really is this kind of market here on a macro level, which is about literally $1 on the mark. So it hasn't really been touching down to those levels, like 110. What do we have yesterday? It was 110. Yeah, so we've kind of moved away now from this like $1 price that we saw back here in July last year. It's very minimal, but it's still a lower high in the grand schemes of something going from a low point to a high point back to a lower point, and it hasn't even reached those lower levels. 106, I think, was the lowest we got to quite recently. So I'm just saying what I see. So I think that's really interesting. Let us know in the comments below if you've been buying some more ADA in the last few days, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this have a switch back over. Let's have a quick confirmation on a few other things before we go into another asset. Look at that again. This is so similar to Veracity. That shows you how much money and confidence is in these projects, irrespective of the price point. Look at that. The intake, a very small outtake, and we might see something similar again on this. Imagine if that just turns around after a day. That shows you how concrete Cardano is as a project and the belief behind it. And all the RSIs are really strong. They had lower points back here on the 10th of January, which is interesting. And that's quite a low point to be at, a 14-day and a 28-day. A 28-day was 38, and that's really, really nice point for me to have been purchasing some, but I missed that point. But back here, it's already showing you on the RSI that they're higher than a couple of weeks ago. So all this talk about it being depressing and stuff and things coming down, in the grand scheme and the longevity of it, it's actually not too bad at all. If anything, I think it's quite exciting. I've now lost my arrow to try and pull this chart back. There we go. So yeah, let us know in the comments if you're holding ADA. Let us know if you get bored as well. I'll close the stream down, but hopefully you guys are enjoying yourselves. I am. I'm just talking a lot of nonsense half the time. So yeah, Firebird, my friend. Let's have a look at one of our favorites, XD.